What's up? It's Coach Hyde coming at you with the video. Next video on the cell transport. All right, talking about active transport this time. We've talked about passive transport. We've talked about osmosis. Now it's time for active transport. It's time to put into work. Time to put into energy, right? And that's what active transport is about. Active transport is about using energy, right? Remember, energy is in the form of ATP in our cells, adenosine triphosphate. We're going to use this energy, right, to transport solutes in or out of the cell. That sounds just like passive transport. Well, it is just like passive transport, except with passive transport, we went by, the law of nature, right? We moved from high concentration to low concentration. Water ran from uphill to downhill, just like the way things should be. But now, with active transport, we're going to go against that. We're going to go against the natural way things work. We're going to go against the concentration gradient. We're going backwards, right? It's like swimming upstream in a river. It's hard to do. It requires energy. I personally like floating downstream in the inner tube. It's a lot more relaxing. So we're like swimming up rivers, just like that. We're going to use energy to go from low to high, right? Think about rolling down a hill, right? So passive transport is like if you were laying on top of the hill, right, and you just roll down that hill, you ain't going to use much of your energy, right? Gravity's going to roll you right on down, right? But if you wanted to roll up that hill, you're going to have to put in some energy. You're going to have to do some work. It's kind of similar to that, and I guess you could say. Now, this is not going to actually happen. So, if we're talking about a molecule, it could be any molecule. We'll say it's molecule, what color y'all want to use here? Let me see this one. Say it's molecule X. Or solute X. So our higher concentration is out here than in here. So naturally, passive transport is going to make these float into the cell. All right, so now we're using active transport. We want to move these out. We want to move them from the low concentration to the high concentration, which is just not going to happen. So what we got to use we're going to use a protein pump. Now this is similar to facilitated diffusion, except facilitated diffusion was just kind of like open up a channel, right, and allowing things to naturally occur, right? But this is a protein we use. It has a little bit different structure, has a little bit different function. It's going to actually pump, right? It's going to pump these from low concentration to high concentration. I just use those little brackets there. I don't know why. I think that means concentration, but that's why it's called at some point in time, maybe chemistry, something. But so we're going from low concentration to high concentration. That's active transport. All right, so that's one form. The other form, right, which is a little different, right, but not really. Okay. Right. Endo and exocytosis. So exo like exit, things exiting the cell. Endo like entering the cell. So it's the process of cytosis, one way or the other, either going out or going in. And all this is, right, if you have the cell membrane, okay, so we want to bring something into the cell, what we can do is we can like bud off the cell. So it could come in and kind of enter the cell that way. So I'm going to do it without the bilayer. It happens with the lipid bilayer, right? But it's just, I'm not that artistic to draw that. So we'll just say, here's my cell membrane. That represents my phospholipid bilayer. All right, so this little thing right here It's coming along. We need to get that into the cell. Well, it can't go through a channel protein. It can't diffuse naturally, right? It might be going against the concentration gradient or not, or whatever, right? We got to get it into the cell. So the only way left is this one, endocytosis. So when it hits the cell, right, what it's going to do, okay, is it's going to kind of push in the cell membrane, kind of, you could say, and the cell membrane is going to start to engulf it, right, kind of surround it, right, and then so that's kind of how it's happening. And then what you're going to end up with is the cell membrane will really reclose, right, and now it's kind of budded off, and now we have our thing inside the cell, inside of a what? So we took part of the membrane of the cell membrane, and made a vesicle out of it during this process of endocytosis. And now it can go to wherever it is that it's going. The opposite of that is exocytosis. So now we have something we're trying to get out of the cell, right? And we have packaged it into a vesicle. Probably was packaged by what cell organelle? Yeah, the Golgi, right? So it's been packaged in this vesicle. We got to get it out, right? So when it approaches the cell membrane, it's just the opposite of what we just talked about with endocytosis. So now it kind of fuses with the cell membrane, right? And the vesicle is going to kind of become part of the cell membrane essentially, right? So now this thing can get out. And then once it's kind of done that, the vesicle merges with the cell membrane. And now we have that out there. So probably did a terrible job explaining that. But maybe not, right? Let me know if that makes absolutely no sense. So active transport is using energy to go against the concentration gradient. It's using energy to go from areas of low concentration to areas of high concentration, which is not the way they naturally happen. If you go against the way things naturally happen, you must use energy. Then you have endo and exocytosis. The same process. Endo is kind of talking about coming into the cell, exo meaning out of the cell. And all that is that cell membrane is just engulfing, right, whatever's out, and bringing it in, forming a vesicle, or a vesicle inside the cell is coming out into the cell membrane and kind of rejoining the cell membrane and letting it out. So that is the forms of active transport. That's it. See y'all next time.